Word Balloon, celebrating 16 years of excellence for you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. It's time again for Word Balloon Live. John Suntress here, welcoming back Cullen Bunn. Colin, I think this is the first time we've done video. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. I just say, is it the last time? Now that you've seen this, you have to turn it off. It's done. No. It's over forever.
Never. You look good, man. It looks like the COVID months have treated you kindly. And
is that what it looks like?
Yeah,
good. Awesome.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you today because certainly representing the great library at Aftershock, I mean, you are probably their most prolific writer, but you've got a brand new book as well from Vault Comics, and we should start with that. The last book you'll ever read. And there's I'm assuming that's the main cover, and then this is the variant?
That's actually, no, reverse that. So the one that's up right now, that's the main cover.
Okay.
And then the other, that's the cover by Layla Lays. And then the other one is Jen Hickman's variant cover.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Excellent, man.
Yeah.
No. So give us the 10-cent tour on the last book you'll ever read.
Yeah. So it's, the last book you'll ever read is a story I've been kind of, messing around with in my head for quite a while. And it started, a few years back. I wrote in one of my notebooks at the top of a page, "Civilization is a lie." And from that little sentence, it kind of spawned into this book. So last book you'll ever read is about an author named Olivia Cade, who has written this book about the collapse of civilization. The book has become a phenomenon, but there are numerous people who love it, but there are also numerous people who are really angry at her for writing this book. And she is determined to go on a book tour, even though she has death threats coming out against her. So she hires a bodyguard to travel with her, but she wants to make sure, the one thing she wants to make sure with him is that he hasn't read her book, and she doesn't want him to read the book.
Okay.
And as they set out on this tour, we start seeing, people are becoming more feral and more wild, but it goes beyond that. The world itself is starting to seem to reset or change. And the question becomes, is this book that she's written, is it the cause of these things? Is it somehow prophetic? And that's what we're kind of exploring as is it just inevitable anyway that civilization will collapse? And that's kind of what we explore as we go through this series.
Sounds great, man. Tell me about your artist.
Yeah, so the artist on the book is Layla Lays. She is an amazing, amazing artist. She's done some really cool books. At Aftershock, for instance, I think she did Horde at Aftershock, which was a really awesome horror book. But we started talking about doing a horror book together a while ago, and this is the result. I couldn't be happier because it's an absolutely gorgeous book, to the point that and the covers she's doing are stunning, to the point that she sent the cover for a later issue today. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this cover I love the cover that we have on the screen right now. But I was like, this cover for this later issue may even be, it may top this one. She's just a remarkable artist. The colors are by Giada Marquisio. I'm probably saying that wrong, but hopefully not. I really do think the few panels you saw there, it's just going to be a gorgeous book. I couldn't be more proud of it. And it starts off, it's one of these it's sort of a slow burn horror story. There's a lot of moving pieces, but once they start really rolling, this series goes into some things that I think will make people uncomfortable in both good ways and bad ways, maybe. So
that's great, man. No, I didn't want to spoil much of the story, and that's why I chose this panel to display her art.
There's Olivia and her assistant Willow, who are at a book signing that's about to go very, very wrong.
Exactly. Yes. So the calm before the storm. But again, I just wanted to kind of show her incredible art here. And people, obviously, I do want you to talk about whatever you want as far as what Cullen's written. And in fact, Magic K has a Green Lantern question for you shortly.
Sure.
But let's talk about this. This is coming out from Vault Comics. Yes. And I even this is the preview code, because final orders are first week in July.
Yeah, so final order cutoff's coming up first week in July. The book comes out late July, the first issue. So and
that's a fast turnaround. Okay.
And I'm not sure what I know that Vault always has interesting things planned for these book releases, and how they, so they've got some interesting things planned for it.
Excellent. No, that's great, man. And is it ongoing or finite series?
So it's an 8-issue series.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, it's I think I've mentioned this and when I've talked to you before. I often feel like I love a good long ongoing series, sure. But I also feel like there's value in the series ending when it's supposed to end, and just telling a short story and getting out.
I agree with you, and honestly, as much as I appreciate ongoing creator-owned books, that's a hell of a balance in terms of, all right, how long do you stay? And the great thing is, Cullen, truly, I mean, ever since my awareness of you, which goes back to Six Gun, you and Brian Hurt, I mean, you got a nice little bookshelf of books and everything. And truly, so if people want to, sample one, there really is a great stack of finite series that they can enjoy of yours.
Absolutely. There's a ton of books out there that are the vast majority of them are still in print, so you can still get them and enjoy them. And there's everything. There's this, which is an 8-issue series. The Six Gun was a more than 50-issue. It was a 50-issue series with some spin-off series, which Brian Hurt and I to this day wonder what were we thinking and how did we manage to pull that off. There's and then even we were talking about Aftershock. I've recently been doing these, short one-shots for Aftershock. They're like 40-something page. They call them one-shocks.
Yes.
But I did a couple of those. I did Eden, which just came out a few weeks back, and Piecemeal, both horror stories that again, those were designed to be, you get into them, you read the story, you enjoy it, and you're done.
Well, and several of your finite series were collected last year for Aftershock, All My Little Demons.
Yes.
And that has things like, Brothers Dracul and Knights Temporal and, right?
Yeah, that book is an interesting collection of material because it's everything I've done for Aftershock except the original Dark Arc series, which was also collected in a big, thick hardcover. So it was everything I'd done up to that point. So now I'm just working towards doing another volume of,
Wow.
That's what I want to collect now.
Yeah.
Another Omnibun.
Of course it's an omnibun. That's
Aftershock won't go
man.
for it. I've been trying to get them to go for it, call them Omnibuns, and they won't do it.
Oh, we'll call him that. That's all right. Good for you, man. Honestly, no. When I got associated with Aftershock, and they're like, I don't know if you'd ever want to talk to Cullen Bunn. I'm like, of course I'll talk to Cullen Bunn. I'm like, I mean, by the way, how is Brian Hurd? I miss him. I haven't seen him forever. And how's he doing?
He's doing well. We talk on a very regular basis. We're cooking up new projects. As you know, we are cooking up too many new projects. We have to start focusing what we're going to put our focus on.
Sure.
But yeah, I talked to him just today.
Good.
We're in communication frequently about what's next, and we're definitely working on a lot of new stuff.
Excellent. People are coming out. Yes, Mark Tweedale is saying yes.
Thank you, Mark.
Another Omnibun, absolutely. Nerdette wants to say hello, and she's enjoying Shadow Man very much. Very cool.
Yeah, new issue of Shadow Man comes out tomorrow. By the way, wait, it is Tuesday, isn't it?
It is Tuesday.
Yes, a new issue of Shadow Man comes out tomorrow. So
that's awesome. Is that Valiant?
Yeah, it's so it's a character who's been with Valiant for since the original Valiant days.
Yeah.
But I've taken over as the writer of the ongoing 3 issues. As of tomorrow, 3 issues will be out.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about it is, or at least I think is interesting, every issue is kind of written as a standalone. So you can pick tomorrow's issue up, even if you haven't read issue 1 and 2, and you can understand what's going on with Shadow Man and enjoy that story as a standalone. I kind of used, you can appreciate this. I kind of used the old Spectre comics from DC as a sort of a template when I was really thinking of these things, where you've got this sort of horror story going on, and then here comes the Spectre in for a little bit, and then he's out. That's kind of what I wanted to do with Shadow Man a little bit.
That's great. Oh, that's a great idea. No, I can see the resemblance. That's fantastic. Man, all right. Dennis is saying that he's been a big fan of yours since Six Gun. Loved his Magneto and Sinestro runs as well.
Is that Dennis Hopeless? Maybe Dennis. It's got to be Dennis Hopeless. No,
I was wondering that as well.
It's not. But thank you, Dennis. I'm sure Dennis Hopeless also feels the same way, that he's a huge fan of me.
I know. I was wondering if that was Hopeless as well. But
no, I can only make out the picture a little bit, but that person looks happier than Dennis Hopeless. So that Dennis is a happier Dennis.
Questions already popping up, Colin, so I'll get to them. Magic K wants to know, he really enjoyed your Green Lantern run. Do you have any new plans for Green Lantern related stuff in the future?
Well, Magic K, I wish I could tell you yes, because I loved working on Sinestro. I love doing the Green Lantern character, the Green Lantern books I did. I absolutely would love to do more Green Lantern, but there are no current plans. Oh, there he is. There's the lesser, unhappier Dennis that says he does love everything I do.
Nora says enjoying Shadow Man. Hope Punk Mambo will make an appearance. Sure. Yeah.
Nora, I don't think I'm allowed to say anything, but except stay tuned. Stay tuned to Shadow Man.
That sounds fantastic. And Nerdette has read 1 and 2 of Shadow Man. It's been great. And I was new to the character. Excellent to hear.
Awesome.
So that's excellent. And then a couple good writing process questions here. Tom Levin wants to know, what do beginning writers not understand about the comic book format? And is your technique any different for horror versus other genres?
So first, I'll tackle the second question. My technique, I don't think I as far as the technical side of how I write a script, it's no different. I'm absolutely, my scripts look the same from genre to genre. From the point of view of like pacing and tone and those kind of things, yes, my technique's a little different, but script wise, it's not. As far as what maybe new writers don't realize about these comic pages is there's only so much that you can fit on a page, and you have to think about it. The great rule that I was told was you can on a single comic page you can have a lot of action, a lot of dialogue, a lot of panels, and you can have any two of those things, but you cannot have all three. And I think that's a great way of looking at this. And some people will tell you, a comic page should have no more than 4 or 5 panels. And I get that that's the philosophy, but if you look at the Sixth Gun, the average was 7 panels a page, and I don't think anyone ever noticed it. You have to do what's right for the story and what's right with working with the artist, but you do have to keep in mind what you can fit into those pages.
I just talked to Shelley Bond on Sunday, and she's got a great Kickstarter for her Secrets of Comic Book Editing.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And one of the things that I discussed with her was the idea of a panel composition and page composition.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, you really, even though you're not going to draw necessarily, if you're a writer, you need to understand that stuff.
Yeah.
To effectively, come up with a good script.
I absolutely used to draw stick figure diagrams of my pages back in the day. I don't do it so much anymore, but I did used to, stick figure out every page I was going to write. I
can only imagine then, even from a page composition standpoint, that you were doing that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool, man. And here's another good question, Denny Dude. How do you format your scripts? Do you write full script? Do you just outline your stories? How do you tend to write out your dialogue?
So my scripts have always pretty much looked very similar. I was looking over at my shelf to see if I still had a copy of it up here, and I don't think I do. But my scripts have always, since the earliest days of writing comic scripts, have been very similar in format. When I was first trying to break in as a comic writer, I got hold of some Greg Rucka scripts for Queen and Country, and I have formatted my script. I took those, I studied them, and that's how I wrote my first several scripts. And mine have changed over the years a little bit, but if you look at them, you can still see that original script. So I write, first of all, I go through 5 or 6 outline phases. I outline and I outline and I outline and I outline. By the time I'm actually writing a script, I know everything that's going to happen on every page. And writing the script goes really quick for me because I've spent so much time outlining it. But I write full scripts. I write the dialogue as I'm writing, panel description, dialogue. And you can find, I've got sample scripts up on, I think I still have links to them on my website and definitely on my Patreon. I publish full scripts for most of my creator-owned stuff.
That's excellent, man. Was that Greg's Queen and Country script book that he had put out back in the day?
That's what I was looking to see if I had it on the shelf here, and I know I've got it somewhere around here.
Sure.
It was not. I did eventually get the script book, and I was using that, but I managed to get a couple of actual scripts that I was using.
That's great. That's fantastic. And no, I think his book is a great resource as well. Mark says, I love that you're breaking down your process from idea to final comic on your Patreon. I love seeing a project take shape like that.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, what Mark's talking about is I just started on Patreon. I am taking a comic and I'm developing it from initial concept where I've been brainstorming what can I do with a new comic. I let my patrons vote on which idea they want me to write, and I'm going to take them through every step. I'm going to write a proposal. I'm going to outline it. I'm going to outline the series. I'm going to write them. I'm going to try to find an artist. I'm going to try to find a publisher. And my patrons are going to see every step of that in detail.
That's awesome, man. So patreon.com/Cullen Bunn.
Yeah. And like I said, I just let them vote on, I put like 4 ideas. I brainstormed for a little bit and then I put 4 ideas up. And now that we've picked one, I'm going to take that idea. And the next step is to really dig into that and turn that paragraph of an idea into a real story.
That's wonderful. I'm going to create a Patreon banner for you. Everyone sees my crawl right there for word balloons patreon.com. And no, honestly, it's always gratifying to see that the Word Balloon listeners, the league, as I call them, the League of Word Balloon listeners, are backing me in everything and helping me out with the podcast. And I think it's a great thing. So that sounds like a really fun Patreon.
Yeah, it's a fun project. It's different, and but I'm excited because I did come up with. I mean, none of the ideas that I threw out there when I sat down to do this, I didn't have any of those ideas in mind. It was not something I had already been working on. These are 4 ideas, and honestly, the 4 I came up with, I like them all. I was like, these are 4 ideas that I could do something with.
Well, there you go. Mark agrees with you. He thinks all 4 ideas are great. So here's hoping. I'm going to be curious to hear what the pitches are and stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mark.
That's excellent. No, I'm really glad to hear that. Luke wants everyone to know that your Deadpool is the best Deadpool.
Well, I am biased, but I do agree with Luke. So,
and I want to tell you, especially this year, given that it's the 80th anniversary, I really enjoyed your Captain America team up book back in the day.
Yeah, that was such a weird book. And it was such a, it was one of my first Marvel projects, and we had such a, it was the Avengers movie had just come out. I think the first Avengers movie, so it was very much
9 years ago.
It's a team up, but it has to be the characters from the movie. So
wasn't that the conceit of that's very interesting.
From an editorial perspective, they wanted it to be a team up book. But they wanted every team up to be characters from the movie, and the only issue that wasn't, here's some behind the scenes stuff. The only issue that wasn't, there was one issue that was Captain America and Namor. It was a single issue, and that happened because I was going to be writing a Wolverine series. And I came up with this group of characters who are a lot like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. There was like a Sherlock Holmes type character. There was a character who was loosely based on Wilbur Whateley from the Dunwich Horror. There was a scientist who was exploring the microverse. And Marvel liked those characters, but they didn't want me to launch them in an X-Men book. So they let me launch them in the Captain America book and have them have them appear once in that book before they appeared with Wolverine.
And it was in that Namor issue?
Yeah, it was in that Namor issue. Now they never did anything else with them.
Man, I got Marvel Unlimited. I'm gonna reread that issue.
They quickly forgot that they existed. They appeared in a 4-issue run I did of Wolverine as well, but their first appearance was in that Captain America Namor book.
That is one of my favorite relationships. Really, the original Invaders, and I'll throw Human Torch Jim Hammond in there as well. And I mean, I just really like the idea, just in that same Justice Society way, that these are the original Marvel heroes. And even when Namor goes rogue, it's like you think, all right, if there are 2 guys that might be able to get through to him from a character standpoint,
right?
It's probably Jim Hammond and Cap, because they've known him, they're war buddies. And you cut through the shit, that's like, hey, come on, man.
Namor, first of all, Namor's one of the most fun characters to write. If I were to try to write it, Dennis Hopeless would probably try to box me, because he also agrees that Namor is one of the most fun characters to write. You don't grow up reading comics when I grew up reading comics and not love the Invaders.
Yes.
Getting even close to writing the Invaders is kind of awesome.
That's great. Brad says great Alessandro Vitti.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or is it Verti? It is Vitti.
It's Vitti.
All right, yeah. Tiny eyeballs on my part. That's why.
It's interesting because those Alessandro issues, especially, that was when I was just trying to throw everything in a comic, because there are and again, I was pulling stuff up from old issues of ROM where the Dire Wraiths had there was a mention that the Dire Wraiths were in these cave systems or whatever. So I was like, okay, well, Dire Wraiths and dinosaur bones. That sounds perfect. And I was just throwing everything I could in these issues. I probably wouldn't write them the same way if I was doing them today. But I will admit, I kind of had fun writing about Hawkeye and Captain America fighting slimy dinosaurs.
There's a lot of energy in those books, and I enjoyed them, and there should be in a Cap series. So no, that's cool. I don't know if they would ever, especially with the anniversary, if they'd recollect that series or not.
I don't know. It's it's interesting because all of those series really would be great for even, teen readers or something. It's a good introduction. Again, it's a, with the characters from the Avengers movies. I mean, now it's changed though. Who knows who the Avengers of the movies are now? So there you go.
Right, and in fact, we talk about Namor. It's going to be interesting seeing him in the Eternals.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
man, and truly, ever since the Marvel movie, brand started happening, I'm like, come on, Namor, come on, Namor, come on, Namor. And I know that for years, the movie rights to Namor have been literally tied up.
That was super convoluted.
Yeah. I mean, there's like weird old deals. So I don't know if we'll ever get a Namor proper movie, kind of like where the Hulk is now. Where I know it's because I think is it Universal? I forget, or Paramount.
Yeah,
I think Paramount needs to be involved. But but again, I'm glad they found a way. So that's excellent. Here, Deanie Dude has another question. All right, he has to ask, how many books are you working on right now? It seems like a lot.
So it does seem like a lot right now, but what you have to keep in mind is, well, first of all, I'm working on fewer books right now than I, by far, a fraction of the number of books I'm working on right now that I have worked on in the past.
Okay.
I mean, there are days I won't tell you because it's a shocking. I mean, it would literally, your hair would just blow off your head if you knew how many books I was working on at one time. But it does look like a lot right now because during the pandemic, everything was on hold, but I was still writing. I was still working on stuff. So the books that are a lot of the books that are coming out, I've been done with for months and months and months and years, but they're just now, coming out.
Sure.
I'm working on a number of books. I'm looking over at my bulletin board of projects I have to do. It's an uncomfortably low number. How's that sound? I'm not working on enough books. So
you don't want to give a number?
No.
Okay. It's up to you, buddy.
That I'm actually actively writing 6 books.
That's great, man.
6, but you also have to keep in mind I'm way ahead on some of them. So I don't have, it's not like when I say I'm writing 6 books, it doesn't mean I'm writing,
every day.
They're all in progress. Some of them I don't have to work on the next issue for a couple of months because I'm that far ahead on them.
That's wonderful. That's terrific.
So yeah, it's not enough.
During COVID, obviously you kept yourself busy. Did you ever entertain the thought of doing things on a different comics platform, whether it's web comics or Panel Syndicate? I mean, this has been my recurring question since COVID.
Yeah, I have. I think there's value in always assessing where you're doing books and how you're doing books.
Sure.
And I did try some different things. Like I did a book called Deepest Catacombs, and everybody can read it. It's on my Patreon, but it's free. You don't have to be a patron to read it. Where I did like a 24-page comic, and every page is I don't know if you remember these, John, but when I was a kid, there were these ads in comics that were actual comic book pages, and they were ads for Dungeons and Dragons. So in this issue, the knights fighting the dragon, and they meet a gargoyle, and all this stuff. So I did a 24-page comic where every page was an ad to a fictional game that never took place or was never created. And each page is drawn by a different artist.
Wow.
And it tells a complete story. And that's all on my Patreon right now. So I was just trying different things, and I'll continue to try different things. Yeah, I've thought about, web comics. And again, I was mentioning how Brian Hurt and I were talking about doing some new stuff. Some of that stuff we're talking about is completely new approaches to getting comics out there.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. Especially, again, it's easy for the writer, or it may or may not be easy for the writer. But yeah, it's also the artist adapting to that kind of format. So interesting. That's cool.
I think it's important to look at different ways. I think it's important to look at different ways to do comics. But as a writer, for me, I've been really looking at different ways just to tell stories in general that that may not have anything to do with comics.
I was just talking to Ben Percy, and he's doing audio
Yeah, yeah.
dramas. Is that something you'd be interested in getting involved with?
I'm doing a little bit of stuff with some podcast, or whatever they call that. Yeah, audio drama podcasts and stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think diversification in terms of what I'm working on is going to be essential if I want to continue to be a writer.
I face the same thing as a podcaster, Colin.
Yeah.
I've got a couple narrative audios that I'm working on. One is just one person narrating. The other is a fully casted audio drama.
Oh yeah.
And
nice.
I think it's a good idea to diversify. In fact, another project I'm working on, I spent 10 years of my broadcast career at Chicago's first sports talk radio station, The Score.
Right.
And that's another project that I think is a documentary. I'm going to focus on those first 10 years of The Score because I think it's a different product now. It's crazy. January 2nd will be the 30th anniversary of The Score, which is insane. And I was there for the first 10 years.
That's
so
awesome.
I really want to cover my time there and talk to all the hosts from that period and a lot of the other behind the scenes people. So
yeah,
I hear what you say. Tom agrees. Diversity platforms, genres,
all of the above.
Okay.
Absolutely, Tom. I want to see ways to tell stories differently, different kinds of stories in different ways, because I think it's just too. Look, I love writing comics, and I'll never turn my back on writing comics. I'll always have comics in the works. But yeah, I think it's important. I didn't break in as a writer. I was doing, when I first started submitting work, I was submitting to comics, but I didn't know how to do it. So I was submitting short stories and novel proposals and things like that. So,
yeah.
I think it's fun to tell stories in different ways. And I'm talking comics, prose, podcasts, role-playing games. There's, luckily you cannot see my desk because it is piled with ideas and concepts and different projects that I'm trying to make happen.
That's great to hear, man. I think that's fantastic. Mark also says that where is it? He still has his fingers crossed for a Harrow County narrative podcast.
Me too.
Oh, that's good.
Of all my comics, Harrow County is probably the one I think is probably the best suited to that kind of platform. I'll admit that I would love to see The Damned with its sort of 1920s gumshoe vibe, but I'd like to see it recorded like an old radio program, and you hear the footstep. I want somebody tapping shoes against a board as someone walks across the room.
I get it, man, and that's one of the ideas that I'm working on. And in fact, Denny Dude even says he was hoping there'd be future for Harrow County and The Damned. So I'm glad he mentions both of those. Absolutely.
So there is a new Tales from Harrow County series that's been announced. So it's coming.
When's do we have a date yet, or
I cannot remember.
Okay, and is that through Image? Who are you publishing?
It's from Dark Horse. It's from Dark
wonderful,
Horse.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's called I'm only pausing because I don't want to say the wrong thing, because I probably just. There's more Tales from Harrow County on the way. How's that?
Leave it at that. That's fine, man. Absolutely. I don't want to screw up anybody's marketing plans.
Yeah, and as far as The Damned, again, it's definitely something Hurt and I are. The Damned is sort of it's a heavy anchor right now, because Brian and I have always had a bigger story in mind for The Damned. We have had that story mapped out for 15 years. We've known where this story's going, and we've just got to make it happen. There we go. I knew Mark would know. Yeah. So the Harrow County Fair Folk. There it is. It's another 4-issue series from Tales from Harrow County. Yeah, it's more Harrow County on the way.
So Fair Folk, carnies basically, or
no, not that kind of fair folk. It's fairy folk. Come on. Although okay. I do like the idea of a carny centric Harrow County.
Man.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm writing that down, and I'm
good. Please do, because honestly, man, I just know as a kid, and of course you still see them when they pop up. Thank God now post-COVID, I haven't seen any pop up in Chicago yet. but in my neighborhood, right by one of the schools, one of the carnivals shows up every year. And yeah, I mean, it looks exactly the way it did 50 years ago. And that's just, and you'll forgive me for the shorthand, I was going to say that's either an Aftershock or a Vertigo kind of series, waiting to happen, a Vault series as well with Ben Dark Horse. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a horror story waiting to happen.
It's weird how much those old carnivals influenced my work. I mean, I think the most obvious one, in the Six Gun, we had this mummy called Asher Cobb, who was this giant 9-foot mummy. And that's because when I lived in Thayer, Missouri, I went to a carnival and they had a thing called the 9-foot mystery mummy. And if you paid like $1, you could go in and look at this 9-foot mystery mummy. And that kind of stuff it sticks with you.
Absolutely, man. I know. Isn't it strange?
Yeah.
I mean, and it really is like almost a carryover, probably going back at least to the dime museums of the 20s and 30s that were kind of those like weird little carnival setups and stuff, and kind of weird Ripley's believe it or not shit. Yeah.
There is a permanent fixture. I think they're calling themselves a freak show, a permanent fixture freak show between my home and St. Louis that, you could stop in, and it's like a, not a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. That's far too classy.
Yeah.
This is like creaky dirt floors, and you can see some weird stuff in there.
It's like that episode of the X-Files where they're at the weird fair and the guy's got the puzzle man face and everything. So that's funny. Mark says, "I'll forever love you for the fact that you wrote a Western with a giant mummy."
Why not? You can't, if you can't do a giant mummy Western in comics, where can you do one?
Yeah, definitely. And I know the Six Gun came so close to, getting some sort of TV series commitment. Is there is it still potentially something that you guys might be shopping as streamers and stuff?
Absolutely. It's we did a pilot for NBC. That didn't get picked up. But there has always been activity with the Six Gun. There's always something going on with it. Always. Weird
Western. I mean, literally since my first exposure to it in the 70s with a lot of the shit that DC was pumping out back then.
Of course.
It's so strange because I'm always fascinated by that genre. I think it's a great melding of cross genres and everything. So
I love it. But there's always something going on with Six Gun. So I'm pretty confident something will happen at some point.
Very cool. Are you watching any of the stuff that's out there right now? Are you enjoying it? Are you what have you been watching lately?
So I'm a little behind on a lot of shows. So I still watch the Marvel stuff that comes out, although I have not watched Loki yet.
Okay.
I save the Marvel stuff to watch with my son, and he just hasn't had time to sit and watch it. Maybe he's not interested. I can't tell you.
How old is your son?
He's 13.
Okay, that's cool.
So we've watched all the Marvel stuff up till that. We just haven't gotten to Loki yet.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm a little behind. I passed on Doom Patrol for the longest time. I was kind of like, it doesn't seem like something I'd like. I mean, even though I love Doom Patrol.
Yeah, but that's interesting because you think,
it's pretty terrible. It's not going to be good. And Doom Patrol's kind of awesome. It's kind of great.
Yeah.
It is so much closer to what I would have expected from a Doom Patrol show. So I'm watching that right now. I'm watching Handmaid's Tale, which I skip. Again, there's one I skipped forever because I was kind of like, and now I'm really hooked on Handmaid's Tale.
Great story. Yeah.
So, I watch a lot of stuff. I can't say I watch it when it comes out all the time.
Dude, I literally this week, because it just popped up on my, hey, you might like this Netflix kind of menu. It's called Tokyo Trial. It's from 2017. And it was made by Netherlands TV and Japanese TV, NHK.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the Japanese post-World War II trials, the way that Judgment in Nuremberg is about the German trials.
Okay.
It is fascinating. And it was really great. And it really focuses on the multi-nation judges that were, this group that was created to make judgment. And a lot of it just is international politics and debate over how to try these men, not only the soldiers, but the government men as well. And I mean, really, it might be boring to some. To me, it was a great just debate about international politics. And I was just sucked in. It's just 4 episodes. But yeah, I was like, oh, this is great. It's brand new. And it's like, no, it's not brand new. It's from 2017. I'm like,
yeah, well, that's
wow.
the other thing. But Netflix has a good run of those documentaries that really, they engage you, and they'll,
But this is dramatized. It's it is. I mean, it's. I imagine.
It's not a documentary.
No, it's a drama.
No,
it really is a drama, and it really. God, and Stacy Keach is the narrator, and it's so perfect narrating. And again, I'm an audio drama freak, and I've been loving the fact that Keach has basically taken over for Rod Serling and the audio version of The Twilight Zone.
Right.
Stacy's been the narrator of that for many years. And those are fun to hear him. But yeah, it was real, and it was an international cast. I recognized a couple stars here and there. Michael Ironside plays General MacArthur, Douglas MacArthur.
Wow.
But it's really
So we had Keach
cool.
and Ironside. That's the toughest bunch of tough guys on TV.
It's true. And yeah, I mean, you never see Keach. He's just the voiceover narrator.
Right.
But he's just supplying the facts. And they do have footage from the trial, but and photographs from the trial. But really, it is all dramatized. Very interesting. Yeah, pretty cool, man. So yeah, and so what did you think of WandaVision? What did you think of Falcon and Winter Soldier?
So I really liked WandaVision. I really liked Falcon, and I saw, look, I don't pay attention to a lot of what people say about what they like and don't like online. And it's nothing against people who, are, share. I don't need it. I can,
make your own.
I feel like Winter Soldier. It doesn't matter what people are saying. I'm going to watch it.
Sure.
And see if I like it. I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
I would say it didn't finish necessarily as strongly as it started for me. And I would have watched an entire season of Bucky and Sam building a boat. That I could have watched. That would have been fine. They don't have to go fight a terrorist. They don't have to fight Batroc. They could have just been building a boat, and I would have been happy for a season.
It's those scenes like in Civil War when they're in the small car, and it's like move the seat up. No.
Yeah. I really could have watched a whole show of just them doing everyday stuff because I like the chemistry between those two.
I'm with you. John Walker was great too. God, I really thought. And Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son.
Oh yeah,
Jesus Christ! I mean, that's and I won't say the characters because you haven't started Loki yet. But that's what I find really amazing about the MCU, both films and TV, is they'll take these ciphers of characters and transform them from a TV or film standpoint, and they're great. God, even Julia Louis-Dreyfus as
awesome.
the Countess Valentina. Yeah. I mean, it's like, oh my God, that was awesome.
Yeah, no, I really like to. So when I compare those two together, they're so different as far as shows. They're such different shows. But yeah, I liked them both quite a bit.
Tom agrees. Wants to know, can you build a boat in a comic? Why not?
Well, I'm sure you could. It might not be as exciting. But maybe I feel like that's a comic Chris Schweitzer has probably already working on, and it's a book about how to build a boat and go, sail down the river.
But I've always heard writers like yourself say, if you need a character moment, you got to give them something to do visually while they're doing it. And I forget who I was giving an example of, like, if they're sitting in a booth in a restaurant at a diner, have sugar cubes on the table and have one of them building something with the sugar, doing something with the sugar cube.
Yeah, I'm going to feel bad that I don't remember where I read this. There was a book on, I think it was on screenplay writing, and they call it Pope in a Pool because it's a story where they meet with the Pope and they're having to give him a ton of information, and it's really dry and it's a lot of exposition. So in order to make it interesting, they have the Pope swimming in a pool, and he's doing the backstroke while they're talking, and that's called Pope in a Pool. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Does he wear the hat in the pool?
I don't know. I can only hope so, but I don't.
Or does he have a bathing cap that is kind of a bejeweled Your Holiness?
I'm certain it's one of those. I'm certain it's something like that.
Did you see, by the way, the two popes from 2019? The Anthony Hopkins, Jonathan Pryce movie.
I did not.
Okay. I'm mentioning.
I knew the book you're talking about. Do they swim in it? Are
no, they don't. I was going to say no swimming scenes in that.
No,
unfortunately,
I'm off. I can only watch Pope movies if there's swimming involved.
I understand. And Mark says I have to agree. What makes the MCU show special is they have space for the smaller stuff like building a boat. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
No, again. I'm really impressed with the television format for these Marvel shows, and to me, really, Falcon and Winter Soldier felt like really a 3-hour movie. Or however long it ended up being, 6-hour movie or whatever.
Yeah.
WandaVision felt more like a TV series.
Yeah. Yeah. But I enjoyed them both for what they were. So
absolutely. Oh, that's funny. David says Da Vinci's Demons had so much Pope.
Oh, there you go. There's lots of
That's hilarious. That was a good show. Yeah. I enjoyed that show. Hickman and Fraction wrote on that show as well. They had a couple episodes on those shows. Yeah. Absolutely. How about DC television or film? I saw as we're speaking, the new Suicide Squad trailer dropped today. Looks pretty good.
Yeah. So the DC stuff, I'm less into the TV for DC side of things. I've watched, a little bit of all of it. Doom Patrol is the one that I'm really into as far as DC goes. But yeah, the new Suicide Squad movie. I think I even posted on Twitter at some point. That preview looks like it was made like for me. Like they said, let's make a movie for Cullen, and this is the movie it is. And that Suicide preview is it's awesome. It looks so good.
Yeah, James Gunn, even before Guardians, I really loved Super.
Super's a great movie. Super's great, and it's fun to me that then they take a movie like Brightburn and they tie it into like a bigger cinematic universe, because if you look at Brightburn, there are references to Super in it. And
wow, I did not put that together. You're right.
There's a couple of references to Super that they essentially were saying, let's make the James Gunn superhero universe.
I like that. That's fantastic. Yeah. God, Blumhouse is such an amazing company. So, it's funny. Celia and Mike Morisi, I'm sure and they're making, their horror movie is coming out soon. I'll talk to Morisi about that pretty soon. But is that, Cullen, are you submitting horror film ideas as well?
I'm working in that. I'm part of a small production company called Hustle and Heart. And we've sold a few shows, and we're out there, getting a few, not necessarily mine. We actually work with a lot of different people, but yeah, I'm out there. I wrote a pilot to a Harrow County series that ended up not going forward. But I've been working on a few things on the cinematic side of things. Very cool, excellent. David would love to see an Unholy Grail on screen. Yeah, I would too, David. I don't know, man. Maybe is it the Green? Is it the Green Knight? Is that the movie? It's the Green Knight. Yeah, the Green Knight. Maybe that'll open some doors. The problem with something like Unholy Grail is there've been movies that just aren't very good about in that, and I keep looking at the Green Knight and I'm like, well, this looks like it's going to be pretty awesome. Maybe that'll open some doors. Yeah, that last Robin Hood obviously kind of failed with Taron Egerton, and that King Arthur that Warner's made a couple years ago, hoping to start a franchise, that kind of fizzled. Right. So it's weird that all those things go into it, because Unholy Grail's pretty different from those, but yeah, maybe one day. That's like it's not the Marvel character, but I remember there was that movie Domino that really failed. Maybe it was a Tony Scott movie. Oh, I know the movie you're talking about. Yeah. And I remember Bendis telling me, that kind of killed that, and V.I. Warshawski, the movie. Yeah. Unfortunately, those failures kind of killed
the female detective movie
Right.
idea for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the tables turned since then, but yeah, no, that's kind of what happens. You know, those kind of attempts at genres, a studio will have a failure and everybody will back off, and nobody wants that right now.
It's the side of things that you just don't think of when it comes to those kind of adaptations. There's all of these very mercurial things that can happen that can change the course of some project getting made or not made.
What do you think of the other interesting thing I think that's happened with Hollywood is the disappearance of the mid-sized film, and you really either have the $200 million blockbuster movie, or you've got the cheap movie like the Blumhouses and stuff, and those have been the successful formulas. But it's that mid-sized movie that can't get traction on the big screen.
Yeah, it's. I think it's unfortunate because there should be a place for those movies. And look, I love that a great movie can be made, for $5-10 million. Sure. I love that. That's and horror movies in particular are great in that, And I love giant, massive, buildings exploding and alien starships coming out. I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, there should be room for the mid-range movie too, and it's a little, and again, it's all balance. It's going to come back. I mean,
I think so too. Although maybe I don't know. It's going to be as we come out of COVID and people start going back to movies. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to have the $100 million weekends like we have had in the past, because I think people have gotten comfortable sitting at home, and a lot of studios are testing the waters and releasing stuff both at the same time, streaming and in theaters. Right. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. What else was I going to ask you about as far as current media and stuff? I mean, are you gearing your ideas more towards and the non-comic ideas, or the comics that you are trying to sell as video properties or film or video properties? Are you leaning more towards television series versus film? Are you doing both?
So I've been doing both, and look, I've been heavily involved in some of the projects. In that, when I say heavily involved, like there's some of my projects that I'm actively involved in pitching, like on a weekly basis. We're out there pitching them, and some I've handed them over to other people that they are actively pitching them. I probably, if it were for me, most of my comics I tend to think would work great as a TV show. I tend to like television shows better anyway. I tend to like being able to get kind of get involved and follow the story along. So I tend to like that anyway. So usually if I'm going out and thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, this would be a great TV show too. All right, whatever. But I'm always, look, sometimes someone has a better idea, for doing something as a motion picture. I'm not opposed to that either.
I'm with you, man.
And it always depends on the thing, on the project too. There are some, I mentioned those Aftershock books. To me, those are written, they're very short. They're movies basically.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about those books, actually. Specific. Tell me what you can about those books, because obviously they're still coming out. But
so I did the first one I did was called Piecemeal, and it's sort of an 80s surreal slasher story. It's a little bit slasher, a little bit phantasm. It's about a group of kids who go into an old haunted house, and they find a brain in that haunted house in a jar. And as you do, you take that brain home with you, and then horrible things ensue. And then Piecemeal then Eden is a completely different kind of book. It's a horror romance, a horror love story, and it's about a tattoo artist who meets this woman who comes in for a tattoo. He gives her something. He gives her a tattoo that's unique. They have a connection. She comes back a couple of weeks later, and the tattoo's gone. And this mystery unfolds about where these tattoos are going, what's happening, and it is a love story, but it goes into some very dark places.
That's outstanding. And when are they out in the fall?
Yeah, those books are both out now. You can
Oh, that's
get
great,
them
man.
Yeah, after Piecemeal's been out for a while, and Eden's been out for a month or two.
Wonderful.
But yeah, you can get them at your comic shop, and if your comic shop doesn't have them, they can definitely order them.
Absolutely, man. And if you want to order them online, aftershockcomics.com, as
sure.
I always point out on every audio episode of Word Balloon, we always promote Aftershock, what's going on over there. And again, your wonderful collection, your first Omnibun is available as well, All My Little Demons. So that's cool. And you see, of course, that's Cullen's Patreon. If you want to see this comic book that is in process and go step by step with Cullen and stuff and participate, that's how you do that, is sign up for Cullen's Patreon. Let's see here. Basilisk is off to a great. Tell me about
Basilisk. Yeah, Basilisk.
Go on. Tell me about
that. It's a new series that I'm doing with Boom.
Oh wow!
It is like
you're all over the place, man. This is fantastic.
I gotta keep
moving.
I gotta keep the plate spinning.
Damn straight, man. No, that's great. So yeah, tell me about Basilisk. That's cool.
So Basilisk is it's a much like Bone Parish, which was the last thing I did with Boom. It's a 12-issue series. It's the same team from Bone and Parish. So we've got Jonas Scarf doing the art. Basilisk is about these 5 individuals who wander down out of the hills one misty morning, and they kill everyone in this small town. And each of these individuals seems to have a unique ability or power that seems to be connected to one of the 5 senses. And this is a story about revenge, because there's a woman who's out for revenge against these people, these 5. We call them the Chimera, who killed these people. So it's a one woman war against these 5 superhuman beings, and it's a book. It's absolutely just a gorgeous book. Jonas is such a talented artist. And yeah, it's going to be a 12-issue, maxi series, I guess is what do we still call them maxi series? Is that what? Yeah. All right. It's
12 is a maxi series. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Mark wants to know if that's also in the same universe as Bone Parish.
Maybe so. Maybe it's a shared universe, Mark. But yeah, I mean, we don't. There is no crossover with Bone Parish, so you won't see characters from Bone Parish showing up in Basilisk. But sure, why not? It could be it might. I mean, and I've even said that elsewhere, that maybe it's all taking place in a similar world. But it's definitely, it's not a sequel or anything. It's its own story. Okay. But yeah, who knows? It's all part of the
Bunverse,
the Bunn Boom universe.
That's great, man. Well, that's terrific, Cullen. I'm so glad to hear that. Honestly, it's always great to hear the people that I love are doing well, and I'm so glad that you do have so many plates spinning. So that's great. So Basilisk at Boom, Harrow County, new Harrow County is coming up for Dark Horse.
There are several new Dark Horse series coming out. There's Harrow County. There's a book called Lucky Devil that's coming out. There's a book called Parasomnia coming out from Dark Horse. All miniseries. Again, I was writing a lot. I didn't, nobody was publishing anything, but I was working a lot.
That's smart. That's wonderful.
So yeah, and then Basilisk from Boom. We've got Last Book You'll Ever Read from Vault. Aftershock is currently publishing a series called Phantom on the Scan, which is a psychic horror story. The next issue comes out tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah, lots of different series. I'm very excited. I'm gonna share this with you too, to promote myself a little more.
Please do.
In July, The Ghoul Next Door comes out, that I did with Kat Ferris from HarperCollins.
Wonderful.
And this is a big, thick 200-page original graphic novel. It's going to be out in hardcover and paperback. It's a middle reader story, but so it's really great for the younger readers. But I think spooky adults will like it too. There's we are talk about a lot of world building. We put a lot of world building in this middle reader book. There's
is this your first middle reader book?
No, it's not my first, because I did Terrible Lizard with Oni back in the day.
Okay,
and
sure.
I did Bite Sized with AWA recently.
Oh, awesome! I like those guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's a genre. It's an age group I've always loved. But this, I definitely, I wanted to do a horror story for, a horror comic for kids.
Yeah.
And I think they'll get a kick out of it. I think adults will get a kick out of it too. But that comes out like July 13th from HarperCollins.
That sounds fantastic. God, Cullen, it's funny. I was planning a horror week right after the 4th of July that week, because Jeremy Hahn's got a Kickstarter getting started then for Haunthology and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that'll be good. And a couple other things that I wanted to do. Mauricio probably talked that week and stuff. And I was like thinking, oh, maybe we'll do something then. And then I was going to reach out to you. I'm glad that we're talking now, though. And, that's great. So another Mark says Eden was another great story and really beautiful. Don't think I ever read anything quite like it. Thought about it for days afterwards. It stayed with me for a while. Always a hallmark of the great book. Agreed. Yeah,
it's Eden was it's a book that the people that read it, and I think it's one of those things. Sometimes you write something, you're like, man, this is gonna stick with people for a little bit. Maybe I struck on something that even I wasn't expecting. And Eden was a book that surprised me a little bit as I was writing it, which is always exciting when you're working on something and hey, you hit something new. And I've been really pleased with the reaction to that book, because I do think it's unlike a lot of things out there.
That's great, man. Jesus Christ. I was ready to talk to you about maybe 2 or 3 books, and we're talking about 10 different ones.
Yeah, look,
Shadow Man.
Busy. That's why someone asked me how many books I was doing.
Well, I'm glad it's all coming out, and I'm glad you were able to weather the COVID storm and continue to produce, and now you're reaping all the benefits. And man, there's nothing more satisfying than going into a comic shop and seeing how big the horror section has become.
Yeah,
because it really has grown, I think, especially in the last 10 years. And there's more space than ever for it, and great product being made at all the publishers. Boom, Dark Horse, Aftershock, Vault, you name it. Everybody's doing it right now. And a lot of great writers and artists are making great horror comics right now.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there. And yeah, comic shops can really do well with it. I mean, listen, years and years ago, I worked at Walden Books. You remember Walden Books, right?
Of course I remember Walden Books, yes.
And the Walden Books I worked at had, in an era of dying horror sections, it had like a 3-bay horror section. And it was the number one in the company nationwide. It was the store that sold more horror comics or horror books, not comics, but horror books. Yeah. And they also sold more role-playing games than anybody else in nationwide. And they even invited me and the guy who I ran the horror section, and this guy ran the role-playing section, and they invited us out to to meetings, and they said, what is it that makes your store sell more of them? It's curated. We look at it, we see the stuff that's out there, we know what it is, and we curate it. And comic shops have so much awesome material. They could be, stocking up on these kind of books as well.
They're the real customers. I mean, that, and the publishers know that, but the fans sometimes maybe don't. And it really is the savvy comic store owner. And man, that's the other great success story of the last 15 years or 15 months. It feels like 15 years, but truly the survival of local shops and how quickly they adapted, kept themselves going. Thank God the readers, we're all stuck. We need shit to read. So, I mean, yeah, we're please give us good product. And, me living here in Chicago, I benefit from it being a great comic store city. St. Louis is a great comic store city as well. That's really important. So I'm glad. And really my friends who do own shops, I salute them. In fact, I was telling you off the air, Franco from All Yeah Comics and Art and Franco is coming to Chicago to kind of just take the temperature of the store and see how things are going. And we're all looking forward to getting together and everything, and then seeing him. It's going to be a lot of fun. So dude,
it's impressive, the stores that, it's been a tough 15 months for comic shops. So if you have the means to support them, absolutely do.
100%, man. Totally agree. Brad says the newsprint back issue market seemingly exploded during the pandemic. Agreed. Yes, I think you're right about that. And certainly just collecting in general. I mean, original art and buying key comics and things like that. Yeah, things have been exploding. Yeah. I think this is why I tend to follow editors. It's a way of getting curated recommendations. I totally agree, Mark. I like talking to editors for that reason. They are the tastemakers. They are the ones that are greenlighting these books at various publishers, and I do trust their tastes. The ones that I speak to and stuff, the Shelley Bonds, and I'm blanking right now. The guy who used to work at Vertigo and was Jason's editor. And
are you saying Axel Alonso?
No, not Axel. One of Axel's disciples. Shame on me. Will Dennis.
Oh, Will Dennis.
I mean, I love Axel, and I love talking to Axel. But like, Will's one of my favorite people in comics, and didn't start coming on Word Balloon until, unfortunately, he got let go of Vertigo. Because DC is really, they keep the reins tight on the editors. They don't want to like the editors talking to people necessarily, because I don't know why, and that's fine. That's their business. That's why I love talking to Marvel, because Marvel's like, talk to whoever the hell you want. We don't care. Which is great. But really, like, Warren Simon's another great editor that I really respect. There's just a lot of great editors that really are, like I said, they're the Karen Berger, of course, the few times I've been able to talk to her. These are the tastemakers. They're the ones that kind of, have their pulse on or their finger on the pulse of what readers want. And yeah, Tom is admiring the fact that we brought up Walden Books. Yeah, Crocs and Brentanos will be brought up next. Remember Crocs and Brentanos?
Absolutely.
There was a great one right down the street from my father's restaurant that he had downtown. And I would just spend hours, he'd make me busboy during the heavy breakfast and lunch shifts. And then it was like, all right, do whatever the hell you want. And I'd go over to Crocs and Brentanos and spend hours over there, man. So yeah, Walden Books, sure. Man, people will be, what was the one that folded Borders?
Borders.
Yeah, man, we all miss Borders. Good Lord. What are you going to do? So anyway, all right, on that wistful moment of bookshop memories, we'll wrap things up with Cullen. Hey, congratulations, man. Seriously. That's funny. Mark says if Daniel Chabon is editing a book, it's practically a guarantee I'll like it. I hear you.
Daniel's a great editor. Not
Absolutely.
Just because he edits most of my Dark Horse books, but he is he's a great editor for sure.
There you go. The last book you'll ever read. There's the variant cover. Here's the regular cover from Vault Comics. Coming your way in early July. Yeah. And Piecemeal, Eden from Aftershock. Great other books coming up as well. And God, you said Harrow County obviously coming back from Dark Horse. Too many to rename.
Yeah, there's a lot. So someone asked me today on Twitter. They said they listed all my books, or might have been yesterday. They listed the books. Said, what am I missing?
Shadow.
And look, I have an e-newsletter that you're going to always be able to see everything I'm doing. Every issue has a rundown, not only of the things that have been announced, but hints of all the things that haven't been announced. I have a Discord server now that not for nothing. Everybody on my Discord server was given, they get free looks at my books. They just yesterday day before yesterday, I shared a new issue that won't be out for several weeks.
Wow.
So if you follow me on Discord, you're going to see new stuff. You're going to see material. As long as I can get the publisher to agree to let me do it. You're going to be able to see advanced looks at new comics. And you can get to Discord. You can get to Discord, my newsletter, all of it from my Twitter account or my website. You can find all that stuff. But yeah,
CullenBunn.com, I'm assuming, obviously.
Yeah, CullenBunn.com or at Cullen Bunn on Twitter. You can find links to all that stuff. So there's plenty going on. I try to keep people engaged. I try to keep everyone in the loop on what's coming. I want readers to see, if someone's following me on my Discord channel, I want to give them the opportunity to see my stuff in advance, because if they like it, I'm hoping they're going to talk about it and they're going to tell people to check it out. And of course, look, if I give them a free copy and let them read a free PDF, I'm hoping they're also going to order the book. But hey, if they enjoy it, that's a big part of it as well.
Well, they've got to be supporting you anyway to take that extra step and follow you on Discord. So I can appreciate that. Final question from David: Grim Tales from the Cave.
Yeah, so I think they just announced that today. It's Mad Cave Studios is doing this anthology of horror stories that are all inspired by grim fairy tales, and my friend Andrea Muti and I are going to be doing a book. We have like a 20-page story in this anthology, so it's basically a full issue, a novel-length story, as they would say back in the day. But we're doing a story based on a fairy tale called "The Devil and His Grandmother," which was a fairy tale, surprisingly, I was not familiar with. Andrea told me about it. He was like, "Have you heard of this fairy tale?" And I looked it up, and it was a very sort of a surreal story, but it was fun to turn that into a real horror story.
That's cool, man. Mad Cave, I'll tell you, I was only aware of them pre-COVID, and they really, I got to say, I think they've got a nice handful of books, and they're kind of one of these up-and-coming publishers that I'm definitely keeping my eyes open and watching what they put out.
Yeah, so they definitely put some cool stuff out.
Very cool, man. Well, dude, thank you. This was great. Good catch up. And great to see you. And I'm glad you're doing well. And I don't know, you got any conventions coming up before we wrap up here?
So I'm not doing a lot of signings and conventions this year. I am doing Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City in August.
Okay, all our buddies down there.
Yeah, so I'm doing that show, which I'm really excited to do.
Sure.
And I am doing a signing at my buddy Jimmy Z. My buddy, sometimes co-writer Jimmy Z Johnston owns a comic shop in Cuba, Missouri. One of the shops that managed to survive, and thrive during this time. So I'm doing a signing at his shop on the day Last Book You Ever Read comes out, which is like July 28th. So.
Wonderful. That's awesome, man. And while I'm talking about this, I should promote, I will be at Terrificon. That'll happen July 30th through August 1st at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be doing panels there, probably sitting at Franco's table in some socially distancing fashion or whatever they have designated. But I'm looking forward to getting out of Chicago. And,
a bubble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I got to practice my mind and make it work and everything. But that's great, dude. So Planet Comic-Con, everybody, you can go see Cullen or at Jimmy Z's store. Yeah. So that's excellent. Very cool to hear, dude. Congratulations. That's wonderful. And I'm glad we were able to hang out tonight.
Yeah,
tomorrow night we're talking boxing. I don't know if you're a boxing guy at all, Cullen.
I used to be much more into it, but occasionally I watched some with my kid the other day.
Oh, that's good. I hope it wasn't Mayweather and Logan Paul. And if it was, it's all right. Oh, good. I was going to say, man,
is there going to be a Logan Paul Mike Tyson fight? Isn't that what I'm hearing now?
God, I refuse to buy it, but nothing would make me happier than watching.
I almost would have to, just because. Come on.
Well, they'll have the highlights. Good Lord, Anderson Silva whacked out Julio Cesar Chavez's kid, who I hate with a passion because the guy's got a lot of talent and every opportunity for him, and he's just pissed away his entire fight career. Well, it's so ridiculous.
This Logan Paul may have some. I don't know if he has boxing talent or not. But I can tell you this: he has some audacity.
Yeah. Well, and shame on me. He has talent in the way that you're going to go golfing with a guy, and the guy can shoot a good game at a public course, but you put him up against a PGA pro, he'll shit his pants.
Well, I saw he said, not that we want to get too much into boxing, but I saw he said that Mike Tyson was old, right? Yeah. Mike Tyson's old. And he's right. Mike Tyson's, right. But you know what? For about 60 seconds, he's going to be just fine. It doesn't matter if he's out of shape for 60 seconds, he can hold his own. Most people can hold their own for 45 seconds, even if they're a little out of shape. 60 seconds is a long time. Long time.
Billy Conn, the great light heavyweight who almost beat Joe Louis for the heavyweight title at 75, stopped a mugger because he still knew how to hit.
Yeah.
My favorite story beyond that, Jack Dempsey, when he was 80 years old with a cane, two kids tried to hold him up at Central Park. He threw down the cane, knocked them both on their asses, was standing on the bodies when the police came to help him. It's just the truth. It's fighters do not lose their punch. You're absolutely right. And also, by the way, I did buy Mike Tyson and Roy Jones in December, and Roy is 4 years younger. They're both in their 50s. Mike is 54. Mike, I'm not saying that he could fight Tyson Fury or any of today's heavyweights, but he still punches with bad intentions. And Roy Jones was gasping for life, much in the way that Logan Paul was against Floyd Mayweather, who he outweighed by 35 pounds. But Floyd knows at 42, Floyd can still hit.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It's okay when amateurs fight amateurs and when former pros fight former pros. But this kind of carnival bullshit. Ugh. So the good news is there's been so many great fights already in the last month or two. I'm talking with the guys from Ringside Seat magazine tomorrow night, and also promoting a lot of big fights that are coming up this summer. The rematch between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. So many great fights that beyond that people may not know, but fight fans do. And I've been doing this pretty regularly every month or so whenever there's a new issue of Ringside Seat. So I covered the sport for 16 years on radio and TV, and magazines. So I'm happy to get back to that and have that conversation. Thursday night, Paul Jenkins is going to be on. So it'll be great to catch up with Paul. And we'll also do our wrap up to our To the Outer Limits show. And then I'm taking the weekend off because I'll be hanging with the guys at Yet Comics in Skokie, Illinois. So that's a little preview of what's coming up on We're Beloove Live this week. Thanks for watching tonight with Cullen. Everybody stay safe.